Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Strategy Skills podcast series. In today's episode, I want to talk about best practices when you're running strategy workshops. We call them visioning workshops here because we're setting the vision for the company, but I'm talking about general workshops, whether it's strategy, whether it's operations, the same rules would apply. And this comes from the Corporate Strategy and Transformation Study program, which is available on the Firms Consulting and strategytraining.com websites. And it's a live program, so we keep on updating it. If you're listening to this on iTunes, remember that this episode is a video episode, and you can watch the video on YouTube. Look for Firms Consulting. So what I've done is, rather than give you lots of different best practices, I focused on the top 4, 5, or 6 that I feel would make or break a workshop. The others, have your slides done correctly and so on, arrive on time. Yeah, we all know those things. But what are the things that separate the people that are very good at running workshops from the people that are average? So what's the difference between the top 5% and the next 15%? I think that's where you want to be, right? So the first thing is that the day of the workshop, while it's very important and it's a big day, really there's not a lot you can do in the day of the workshop to make it amazing and successful if the work has not been done before. So, for example, in the strategy workshops we've run for Empire International and Empire Energy, the case studies, the market analysis, the value chain analysis, and so on took about 4 weeks to complete. So, if we had not done those correctly, it doesn't matter what happened in the workshop, even if the client thought it went well and the client didn't see we were unprepared. The fact is that we were unprepared would have meant we would have had poor outcomes and a poor discussion. So when you're analyzing how well a workshop is going to go the day before a workshop, think about what happened in the last 4 weeks, because that's going to give you a good indication of whether you have the raw material to make the workshop go well. Next thing is, workshops never go as planned. There's always going to be executives who raise things you never thought about. And some of them can be persuasive. Executives can hijack a workshop. They can completely change the direction of a workshop if you're not careful. So the lesson here is that you need to know what you want out of that workshop, the messages you want to deliver, and how you're going to deliver it, also known as a story. If you don't know that, and you don't know why you've picked that objective, why you've picked that message, why you've picked that story, when the workshop is being derailed, you don't know where to take it back to, because you've never decided these are the priorities. Now, sometimes you can't take the workshop back to where you want it to go because the executive has raised something very valuable. So in that situation, you have to know why you originally picked that workshop objective. Because if you know why, you can know how to adjust the workshop if the executive raises something meaningful. But if you're just someone who is told by a partner, you must deliver this in the workshop, and a client raises something very valuable that derails the workshop, at least the agenda, if you don't know why that objective is so important to the partner, you won't know how to manage the situation to get the outcome the partner wants by ignoring the objective, but by having the discussion the executive wants to have. It's a lot of skill here, right? Now, I've seen a lot of consultants want to practice managing a visioning workshop. Don't practice. It's not a presentation. It's not a presentation where you're telling people what to do and they have to listen. It is a facilitated presentation where there's back and forth discussions. And really, as the person, I wouldn't say managing, facilitating the workshop, you have to not control the workshop, but you have to guide the group to go in a direction to get an outcome. It takes a lot of skills to do that. So whenever I see people preparing for workshops and they tell me they're planning to present, that's a bad skill. The workshop is not about presenting. It's about being able to seed the group with some facts and wait for them to tell you what they think. And you've got to marshal all of that to provide a synopsis and an agreement to take them to the next part of the workshop. You have to be able to handle some very difficult personalities who are going to be abrasive. You have to know the material very well, because if you don't know the material well, you lose credibility. Obviously, if you don't know the material well, you don't know what to prioritize, what to deprioritize. You don't know how to respond to comments and so on. But if you're practicing to present, it's a bad skill. People always want to know details in a workshop. It's not important. You don't have time to go into details. It's about the themes. You got to know these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe themes you want to drive very hard, and you've got to focus on them. If you're someone who's saying, don't worry, this workshop's going to go well because I have the details, you're going to lose your audience. Whether it's return on equity numbers, whether it's a net cash flow analysis, whether it's economic profit discussions, yeah, we know you know the detail, but if you start getting into the details and you miss the themes you want to drive, the workshop quickly derails for a couple of reasons. The more senior the team is, the less they're interested in the details. They don't care. They pay other people for that. Some people may ask detailed questions, that's fine, but you've always got to bring them back to the themes. If you don't stay focused on the themes, what can happen is, I'll tell you what will happen actually. You will get caught into a situation whereby something you will say about the details is something you haven't pre-presented. And because you haven't pre-presented it, the executive will say, hey, that's something we need to check. Let's check that before you make a decision. So you're not avoiding the details because you don't know it. You're avoiding the details because the executives don't know it. And when they have to make a decision on something they don't know, they usually don't make a decision. The next thing is always try to go to first principle analyses. On the value chain, you've seen the way we did the value chain analysis for the power study. It's, I think, impressive. It's something no one has done before. It defies conventional wisdom. But because it's so simple, the logic we apply, anyone can follow it. First principle analysis is always the right way to go. I'm a big believer in simple slides. You've seen the slides we do. Make one powerful point with one good slide versus putting up 10 slides. Never put up a slide saying, this is not important. I'm just showing you this just for your interest. You lose your audience if you do that. And finally, this is an old rule, always pre-present. I've mentioned this many times across all of Firms Consulting training programs, across all of our books written by Chris and other partners and so on. The concept of pre-presenting is very important. The client must never see something the first time being the day you want them to make a decision, because it will never, ever, ever go well. You must always pre-present the day before you want them to make a decision. And if you're not doing that, then you're going into meetings whereby no decisions are being made, and you're actually doing yourself a disservice because no one's equipped to make a decision. And every meeting, every workshop is actually a moment to make a decision. If no decisions are being made, it's not a successful meeting or workshop. As always, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to see more episodes, go to firmsconsulting.com and you can put your details into any of our pop-ups or opt-in. It's free. And we will send you sample episodes of other more advanced programs we are doing.